On the back here, guys, this one's kind of interesting. It's similar to ones we've done where the only denominators we have, they match. But when we start to go solving, you're going to see something interesting happen, okay? So since this is our only denominator, what is our LCD? You got it. There's no thinking there, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take each of these items, even if they don't have a denominator, and multiply by x minus 2. So x minus 2 is going to go in front, and then x will go behind it, plus x minus 2 goes in front, and 14 over x minus 2 goes behind it, equals x minus 2 goes in front, and 7x over x minus 2 goes behind it, and then x minus 2 goes in front, and then the 1 goes behind it, all right? I'm just doing that to stay consistent. LCD in front, the original in back. LCD in front, the original in back. So the x plus 14 over x minus 2 equals 7x over x minus 2. They're all there. All right, since this first one didn't have a denominator, we're going to have to distribute it. So the x will go to the x, and the x will go to the negative 2. There's nothing canceled out. So what will we have? We'll have, is that going to be x squared minus 2x? Does that look right? On our second one, though, it did have a denominator, so that canceled out completely, and that just left us with a positive 14. On the second half, the x minus 2 is canceled out completely, and 7x remains. And then if this was anything other than a 1, guys, make sure you don't forget to distribute that. So 1 times x is just an x, and 1 times a negative 2 is just a negative 2. So quadratic popped out again. I'm going to gather like terms on the left. I can't do anything more. He's going to wait as we gather like terms on the right. So this is x squared minus 2x plus 14 equals, what are we going to have over here? 8x minus 2. Does that look right? What's our next move since there's a quadratic here with this x squared? What do we need to do? Yes, we're going to get everything over to that side so we can set it equal to 0 and factor. So we're going to subtract 8x from the negative 2x, and we're going to what? Add the 2 to the 14. Does that look right? So we'll have x squared minus 10x plus 16 equals 0. And at this point, we can solve using the AC method. Factors of 16 that add up to negative 10. 8 and 2, and they'll both be negative. So you factor, do regrouping. There it is, x minus 8, x minus 2 equals 0. So what are our two potential answers? X equals 8 and x equals 2. But again, before we get too excited, we have to check our domain. And where do you go to check your domain? Just go to your LCD. What's the only thing that makes our LCD 0? 2. So what does that mean? It means when we go to put these answers into my math lab, we wouldn't put 2, okay? So this is not in our domain, but 8 is. So it's not an instance where it's a no solution, it's just an instance where one of our 2 didn't work, okay? And again, this is not in domain, aka it makes denominator 0. I'm just going to remind us that every time, because I feel like that domain question is the hardest thing. All right, so it's a little bit different because you do have one that does make it 0, but you still have one that makes it okay. So 8 would just be your answer. All right, last one. These are always kind of weird. But in real life, we have these generic equations that vary from person to person. So this one you're actually going to see on Wednesday, guys. It's those work problems. Like if I take 4 hours to paint a room and Sadie takes 3 hours to paint a room, how long will it take us to paint together? And there's a long way of solving it, but this is actually the generic way to solve it. 1 over 4 plus 1 over 3 equals 1 over x, and we could solve it. So they said, well, why not just solve it for x from the very beginning, all right? So we want to solve for x, and a way to do that is to find the LCD and do what we've been doing. Well, what does this denominator need? An a. What does this denominator need? A b. And what does this denominator need? An x. So abx is our common denominator. They don't share anything, all right? So we're going to take abx times 1 over a plus abx times 1 over b equals ABX times 1 over X. So we're going to do exactly what we've been doing. It's just a little awkward because they're all letters and there's no numbers there. But the whole process is going to stay the same, where since we're taking the LCD, our denominators should start flashing out, okay? So when you take this times ABX, what happens? The A's cancel out, and you're just left with BX times 1, or just BX. On the second one, the B cancels, so you're just left with AX times 1, or AX. On the third one, the X cancels out. Those are always kind of hard to cross out, so you're just left with AB. All right, so who are we trying to solve for? We're trying to solve for X, and notice that he's located in 2 spots. If we knew what A or B was, we would just add it, right? 4X plus 3X is 7X, but we can't do that. And so one other way is to actually factor. Do you guys agree that both of these terms have an X in them? So guess what we can do? Factor out an X. When you factor out an X, what are you left with? You got it. And on the right-hand side, we have AB. All right, who are we still trying to get? The X by himself? What did you say? Not subtract, because technically, what operation is this when X is right next to it? What are we doing when it's right next to it? Multiplication. So how do you undo multiplication? Divide. But you have the right idea. You're like, I want to get X by itself. That B plus A is in my way. So I'm going to actually divide by B plus A on the left and the right. What happens on the left side? B plus A cancels out with B plus A. You're left with X. That's what we wanted. On the right, nothing cancels out as much as you want to. Because like I said, if you have a plus or minus there, that's a different number, right? If A was 4 and B was 3, that's 7. 7's not going to cancel out with a 4 or a 3. So we just leave it like that. And I know that looks really generic, but now I can just plug in my 4 hours and her 3 hours, and that's 12 over 7, 1 point whatever hours. So, and it stays like that